Very interesting guest we have coming on next. Charles Hodges is a founder of Hodges and Associates Architects, I guess you could say. Dealing specifically with people who suffer from any type of dementia or mental health memory issues. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Brian?
I'm doing great. Let's talk about what you're designing Up and Prosper right now. Because when I was first told of what you do, I just, without even doubt, I said, I got to have him on my show. Because I think it's very interesting, and being that it's Mental Health Awareness Month, the month of May, this ties right in.
Certainly.
Let's talk about that.
Well, for 40 years, Hodges and Associates Architects has really followed the baby boomers, and we have designed facilities for where they were in that stage of life. We began by doing about 46 million feet of retail in 36 states. We've designed very large million square foot plus retail. We moved from there into the office sector. We designed when they were professionals building their businesses. And then when they had discretionary income, we began to design entertainment facilities. We've done over 70 theaters. And then we began to be interested in senior living. And with senior living, I really became passionate about senior living, having been a family member of someone who suffered from dementia and Alzheimer's. Going through that process, that 3-year battle, seeing the facilities that were available to the Texas market was the most frustrating experience of my life. And in doing so, it really began to build a real drive in not only myself, but in our company to research and build from the patient standpoint and design what would be and would become the cutting-edge facility available.
Because structurally speaking, tell us some of the problems that someone's facing dealing with dementia. What do they deal with on a daily basis?
Well, there are 3 enemies to the dementia patient: loneliness, helplessness, and boredom. And when you begin to really study the daily life of a dementia patient, to understand the sensory issues that they're dealing with, you would have to take a pair of glasses, rub Vaseline on them, and talk about visual acuity and how that's been compromised. When you talk about recognition of location, orientation within a facility, it's scary enough to move from a home that you've lived in your entire life and move into a facility full of strangers that really you don't know how to interact with. And so that facility needs to become therapy. And if it's not designed with the patient in mind to become a therapeutic element in their life, then the facility falls short of its potential. So we began to research, assemble partners, really study the disease, and then we began to design these facilities for other companies and entities in Texas, in this area. And as we did, it became frustrating to me that first in-place cost began to take precedent over the real therapy offered for our residents themselves. So at one point, I finally said, I'm going to change this in Texas. And so we made the decision to build our own facility. And that was the beginning of Tribute Senior Living.
Okay, let's talk about wandering.
Wandering is a very interesting phenomenon that is a byproduct of dementia and its progression. Wandering is basically walking, if you will, getting out of your room in a facility. But wandering is actually very therapeutic to a dementia patient. A lot of people in early days felt like wandering was a bad thing because you risk fall. Well, that's true. You risk fall, but you also need to get out of that room. You need to get involved in the facility, and you need to start building your own fitness program, if you will, within that. And wandering is very therapeutic. It's very calming. It can be very soothing. Temple Grandin is somebody that I've leaned on over the years. Temple's, she's a professor, a PhD at Colorado State. She changed animal behavior worldwide. And I called Temple. She's a great resource. And I said, well, she is probably one of the highest functioning autism patients in the country. When she was 8 years old, the doctors told her parents to go ahead and institutionalize Temple, that she would never be able to verbally communicate, and that she should really choose that as the highest life expectation they had. Temple's a PhD at Colorado State. She was named Time's 100 most influential people 2 years ago, I believe. she's a great resource for me. And I asked her, how do you relate spinning, which is highly prolific in the autistic community, but people like to spin. They spin in a tree swing. They like compression. Temple built her own compression machine, which emulated the squeeze of a mother. And these things were calming to her when she hit her highest level of agitation or highest level of apprehension. She said wandering really is the parallel to that within the Alzheimer's community. Wandering is very therapeutic. It's calming. It's purposeful. It enables you to exercise. You may not be fully capable of a very strenuous exercise regimen, but it is the exercise of choice.
So you've designed this facility to enable these people to wander, but not get lost. And not go into a dead end. So there's always a loop, right? There's always something.
And to socialize along the way, right?
Exactly. By designing it in a racetrack fashion or an oval, if you will, each of our pods are designed in an oval such that there is a continuous loop of walkability within that. You're able to visit various landmarks, socialize with either caregivers or other residents along the way. Makes for a much more meaningful experience than just hitting a dead end in a straight corridor. And probably 60%, 70% of the facilities in the United States were designed straight corridors, dead ends.
That's it. Mm-hmm. You know, all kinds of ideas, Julie, are going in my head for this racetrack mentality.
Yes.
I see the walkers. I see you put some lines in the middle. Let's do some races.
Well, honestly,
I got to be honest with you.
Honestly, one of the things that engage our residents and part of our new paradigm of care is really embracing that and embracing the wandering. And there's no reason why there can't be progression tracking. If you do 10 laps today, let's do 12 tomorrow.
That's kind of where I'm going to.
Build that fitness regimen such that the vascular system is highly stimulated.
Thank you very much. Yep.
You bet.
I thought perhaps I was making a joke there, and I'm like, no, I'm glad you tied it in a bow for me, because I'm like, no, I'm not making fun of it. It's actually competitive.
Yeah, and you can look forward to doing it every day, like you said.
We're talking to Charles Hodges. He's a founder of Hodges and Associates. Let's talk about music and how important music is.
Music therapy is very important, and through our research, we've really found that there were formative years in each person's life, and those were the years from the ages of 19 through 25. Those years were the ones that really music meant a great deal to you emotionally, and it was part of your progression of life at that point. We feel like music is something that can not only be therapeutic as a participation element, but we also think that returning you to those years through music can be very soothing to the patient. One of our greatest needs is ways of skillfully dealing with agitation and with apprehension in a dementia resident. And we believe in our facility, we've really gotten to the point where our soothing rooms, which are available for our families to interact with their loved one, our soothing rooms have touch screens in them so that you can touch that patient's face on the screen and it will queue up instantly a PowerPoint of historical photography from their family and music from their formative years.
That's wonderful. So it's going to spark memories and good feelings and calm them down.
It reorients, it stimulates memories that were probably very pleasant in their life associated with music. And we think music can play a great role as a healer or a soother.
Now, Charles, not a whole lot of people know that Michael, in this whole 19 to 25-year-old range, was more of a Justin Bieber, kind of NSYNC, Backstreet Boys. Am I hitting that right over there, Michael?
What the heck are you talking about? I haven't been 25 in many years.
Yeah. And Charles, we were talking a little bit before show. It would be Crosby, Stills, and Nash.
That's right.
But it really is amazing what music can do to your memory and bring back the feelings and emotions. And look, I'm a music guy. That's what music does.
Yeah, if you're driving in your car and you remember a song from when you're 20 years old or something, I mean, you're singing along, you're having you just feel a little better.
And classical music is one of my favorites, because that really, I think, it's the brain, because it's a visual thing in your, it's an opera in your head almost. Man, this is some cool stuff.
And even the food you were going to get into, right? I mean, you were going to talk about the menu.
Well, I tell you what, let's talk about, we got to take a break real quick. 7:27, we're talking to Charles Hodges. He's the founder of Hodges and Associates. We'll continue this conversation after the break. Plus, you like to run, Charles?
I like to walk.
Hey, I'm with you on that. I like to walk. But they've got a cool thing coming up this weekend. We're going to talk about that. It's all happening at Central Market in Plano in Greek God yogurt. I love that stuff. Yeah, I would run for that. I'll be honest with you. 7:28. Hanging out this morning with Julie Bologna and Charles Hodges. He's founder of Hodges and Associates Architects there here in Dallas. And we're just naming some places that you guys have been behind. Let's name drop right now.
Well, we just opened the new Alamo Draft House in the Cedars, south of downtown. We're very excited about that. We're old-time Dallas, so it was fun to go back and do the renovation several years ago on Inwood Village. I attended movies there as a child, and to be able to come back and work on it as an architect
that's gotta be kind of cool.
Was a real privilege.
Yeah.
Did you play with Legos when you were a kid, or Lincoln Logs?
Lincoln Logs, absolutely.
I was a Lincoln Log fan right
That's
there.
right.
My
I
boys,
really
they love both. They love both, yeah. My little one will build, Legos like the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars.
Sure.
We just got that, and he spent all day till he was done.
If Charles was a kid now, he would do Minecraft.
You probably would.
That's right.
You would be a huge Minecraft. Of course, we are talking about how Charles and his company has designed these facilities tailored to people suffering from dementia and Alzheimer's and mental health issues like that. And we've been talking about the design layout, how they're kind of circular in a way and enables wandering.
So, and also music therapy.
And music therapy, which is really cool. But let's get into the nutrition aspect of all of this.
I think when we began to formulate the team for Tribute Senior Living, we sought out the researchers in the country that we thought were really cutting edge. One of those researchers was Dr. Paula Gramus. Dr. Gramus is currently the executive director at the Ryan Institute for Neuroscience at the University of Rhode Island. At the time I sought Dr. Gramus out, she was the director of the Institute for Aging at Texas Tech in Lubbock, where I went to school. And Dr. Gramus is a firm believer that there is a lot of dementia being misdiagnosed today as Alzheimer's for just an easy diagnosis, when in fact it may be vascular dementia. Vascular dementia is a derivative which is based on the compromise of the vascular system not delivering oxygenated blood to the brain, and is a byproduct of a lot of sedentary lifestyle in America, which we all know is chronic. And in addition to that is also a nutritional issue. And if you have a compromised vascular system and you aren't really fueling your body with a great nutritional regimen, then I think you're handicapped and you're really holding yourself back from what could be a slowing down of the progression of the disease. So within our facility, we have operational criteria that basically says you will choose your diet, and you may have a Mediterranean or a vegetarian choice, and rather than just the same old that you see in most facilities.
Sure.
We actually have a mobile kitchen that enables us to extend the diet opportunities and to do special things within our facility, so we can move that around from pod to pod. Remember,
Isn't that cool?
Our facility is designed with pods that house approximately 25 guests in each of our pod. So it's a smaller environment. It's a more secure, it's a little more orienting environment than a large facility. When we began designing these, dementia care was limited to a locked wing and a nursing home.
Sure.
That was their therapy. A locked door. And it was so frustrating to see that architecture did not take advantage of the ability to be therapy at every possible turn. So nutrition has become a very large paradigm of our fitness program. So you need to be nutritionally fit if you're going to fight this disease, and we want fighters.
Yeah, you want fighters. Okay, the new facility opens up about a year from today.
That's correct. Our groundbreaking is Monday.
It's Monday, up in Prosper.
Monday morning.
Great area up there. I live in McKinney, so that's just right across 380 from me.
It is a wonderful area, and I believe the center of growth for the next 25 years.
Oh, it is. It is.
Why do you think I live there?
Yeah.
I'm progressive, see?
They're all following you, Brian.
Yeah, they're all following me. For more information on this, can we direct them to your website for your firm?
I'm happy to speak directly to anyone that has a question. Call me at Hodges & Associates, 972-387-1000.
I like it. Isn't that interesting?
That's very
So you're getting them in
interesting.
on the actual structure itself, audio, music, nutrition, food.
Yeah.
And I just think
just the setup alone, thinking about, a dead end hallway, how frustrating that can be for someone.
Dude, I would skateboard all through there. Anyway, you'll let a guy like me run the place. I can go in there once a week.
It can be the entertainment.
You know what? Hey, you know what? You're not stand up night.
We would love to have you there as a guest.
I would love that. I would a stand up comedian. All right, let's transition
I'll make sure
over
to sign the papers to put them there later.
What's that? Yeah. Trust me, there's a lot of people that have signed the papers that have me there. You won't be the first. All right, we're back. 8:32. Let's turn our attention now to Charles Hodges. He's with Hodges and Associates Architecture. Really redesigning the way we treat people with dementia and other mental health illnesses. And of course, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. He's joining us in the studio. We talked a little bit last hour of how you set up these facilities. And let's kind of recap that quickly if our listeners missed that.
Well, I think that the important thing is the facility should be therapy. And quite honestly, every wall in every room is an opportunity for doing something therapeutic that specifically targets dementia and Alzheimer's. And I think our facility embodies the principles of making the building itself and its architecture therapeutic. I think that many of the things that you see, mistakes that are made, people that really haven't researched are still doing design such that you may have a very definite pattern in a flooring material, such as a black and white tile floor. Well, to a dementia patient, that black tile represents not a tile on a floor, but that's a hole. They see that because they have diminished visual acuity, and they see that as a hole, and they'll actually back up and walk around that dark tile in a very bold pattern. So bold patterns are a mistake, and if you aren't well researched, then you don't know that. You throw that in trying to do something that you think is a good architectural entry into the facility, and in fact, you have just put up a barricade.
Isn't that amazing? And maybe people years ago, constructed these facilities, didn't take that in consideration at all.
Correct.
In these dead-end hallways, hallways that just terminate.
And that's one of the greatest frustrations because, as we talked about in the last segment, wandering is really a therapeutic issue for a dementia patient. The wandering is soothing and can be reassuring and, of course, is fitness generating. And we think that vascular dementia is one of the major problems. So if you design a facility that has endless wandering opportunities, has interesting elements along that pathway, and gives you an opportunity to interact and have social interactions with many people along that way rather than walking to the dead end of a straight corridor, that then begins to be therapy as architecture.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then you get into the nutrition aspect of it. And I think more and more you start to see infomercials and products that talk about this.
Yeah. And it's so important, even just what you eat, just our lifestyle. We're talking about fast food, restaurants, eating too much. And, we should be eating just, so much less at each portion. And that's clogging your brain. And that's, causing the dementia, as you mentioned.
I think that nutritional fitness should be a paradigm for every facility that targets memory care and dementia. Nutritional fitness is something that is so easy to be delivered. And it's not an issue of cost. It's an issue of care and timing and really having the passion to deliver the finest product nutritionally to a dementia patient. There are so many opportunities to do great things with selected diets. Nutrition is not only a diet selection, but nutrition is also the fact that you allow your residents to eat in a window when they are hungry. Mm-hmm. One of the great frustrations for me as a family member of a dementia patient was the fact that my dad, who had Alzheimer's, he was 86, 7, and 8 during our journey through Alzheimer's, and they would force him to eat in a 1-hour window. Well, they would try to make him eat when he wasn't hungry, to the point it became a physical struggle. And rather than understand that you need to give people an opportunity to eat, when they're actually hungry, he would go without, because they would march him down to these monster dining halls because they wanted to lessen their labor load by serving during a shorter window of time. Therefore, he was forced to eat when he wasn't hungry, and he didn't eat. So there's your nutritional fitness in a way that is so detrimental to the progression of the disease.
See how this is
I would have
just
never thought that,
life-changing?
but
I would have
yeah,
never thought that. Of course, my dad suffers, and I told you this in the break, and that's what my mom has to do, is force him to eat, and she has to watch him and be like, okay, you're going to eat. Treat him like a kid almost.
Yeah.
It's time to eat. Are you going to eat? Mm-hmm. And he always says he's not hungry.
Right. So what we've done is, rather than a 1-hour window at Tribute Senior Living, we've established a 2.5-hour window. And then we mentioned in the last segment the mobile kitchen opportunity. In each of our pods, we have a local warming kitchen that has cooking capability. So if you're an early riser and you become one of our residents and you're hungry at 5:30 in the morning, somebody will come down and cook you an egg in your pod. And why not? I mean, have these people not earn the ability to eat when they're actually hungry and replicate their lifestyle that they've spent the last 60 years enjoying?
No, I couldn't agree with you more. And I know all the impacts that music has on people. And let's talk a little bit about that, because you guys incorporated, I think, a genius system there.
Well, the music therapy, I mean, a lot of people have musicians come in and just entertain. We like the participatory opportunities that the music of your life offers. And through some research, we found that really your years 19 through 25th year is really when you had the formative years for music. And, you know, I'm 64, so my 19th through 25th year were dominated by Elton John, Crosby, Stills and Nash, Steppenwolf, all of those classic rock kind of opportunities. And
see, I knew Charles and I would get along when he walked in.
Like the same music.
Exactly.
So that's going to stimulate a positive memory for you and enjoyment at the same time. And also, you said you kind of put it on a touch screen where they can see pictures.
I think our digital world that we now live in offers limitless opportunities to stimulate these residents by offering the ability to hit a touch screen and have that music queue up and have a PowerPoint of your family photos at that point. So you can reorient and trigger memories that maybe haven't been stirred in the last 5 years. And as a family member comes to visit, you can go over current events and you can brief that resident on all the things happening outside of the facility within the family. So it's almost Facebook in real time for our patients.
And let's talk about this for a second. A lot of these people don't have family members.
That's correct.
They may have a son or a daughter that lives out of state that never sees them. So I think to at least have the ability for someone to walk up and learn about this person and have all the history is important.
And it's controversial, but I think one of my goals, and as we sought out our operational partners, was the ability for a sibling or a daughter in New Jersey to be able to Skype with our guests.
Look at that.
Oh, that's good.
There's no reason.
There's no reason. Yeah. We have the technology.
And there's a lot of people who have apprehension about that for the operational liabilities, but good night. Why are we not capturing that capability on a daily basis? If you are truly designing for the therapy of the family itself, what greater relief is it to see your parent from, if you live in New York or you live in LA and you just can't get there very often, why not give them the ability to visit on a daily basis?
Who would be against that? And we don't have to go all into it, but there's people pushing back on this?
Well, I think there are slow adopters, and then there are those like me who are so unbridled because we haven't had a long history of operations and we haven't been so
set in your ways.
Yep. We believe that throwing out every old paradigm was our first and foremost goal in this project.
Very cool.
And what are some of those early warning signs? Like, you mentioned, this people might be in their 70s or 80s, but in their 40s, you mentioned you can start noticing some things.
I mean, let's not get bogged down in statistics, but let's really talk about today's status. There are 5 million people suffering from dementia and Alzheimer's. There's a projection, many projections that I've read, that there will be 10 million people by the year of 2050. If that's true and you divide that by the number of SMSAs or major metropolitan areas, and then you divide that by 100 residents per facility, it's mind-boggling how many we need. There is a tidal wave, an absolute tidal wave coming that we're not prepared for. And this generation, if they are to be served correctly and be given the service that they have earned, we've got to very quickly rethink this entire therapy program. We've got to rethink these facilities, and we've got to prepare for the coming generation. And those generations, unfortunately, are being diagnosed now in their 40s and 50s. And we're not prepared for that. In 2013, there was an evaluation test called the famous face recognition, and that was one of the benchmarks for if you couldn't recognize famous faces, then perhaps you were slipping into one stage of dementia. In 2013, they realized that two of the faces they had there were Nehru. Most people don't even know of your
I think
generation.
that's the guy who they named the jacket after, right?
That's correct.
Okay. You see my face? I'm
going, I don't know.
Exactly. But yet you're in your 40s. And you might be used for this as a valuation as to whether or not you're in there. Nehru. Emperor Hirohito. People in their 40s weren't born when Emperor Hirohito was involved in the Japanese participation in World War II. And Nehru ruled from 47 to 60. Those people weren't born. So they had to swap those out because they realized this is in 2013. Really? Is that the best we had in 2013 to evaluate a Generation Xer with early diagnosis?
Yeah. We got to take a quick break. We're talking to Charles Hodges. He's with Hodges and Associates. Now, this new facility opens up about a year from today.
That's correct. Groundbreaking on Monday.
And give me locations on that.
It's basically Preston and Broadway in Prosper. Preston Road and Broadway.
Okay. I know where that's at, actually.
Right in the heart of Prosper Town Center.
I'm visually. I know that's that. Oddly enough, wonderful. And we'll have all this information. As Michael's done a great job of putting this stuff on our Facebook page and our Twitter, and we'll continue to put all the information up to your company. Hey, we come back from the break. We were talking to Charles Hodges about this really state of the art facility that he is building up in Prosper. I absolutely love everything that's come out of your mouth. And I told you in the break, one of the things I like the most that you've said is these people have earned the right to receive this world-class care.
They actually have, and they've educated us, and they've given us every opportunity, so they deserve our best, and they are not getting our best.
They're not getting it. Real quickly, you talked about the air conditioning units, which is, Julie
you would
and I...
never think about this, but he said sound is an agitator that usually causes them to get upset, almost like a child with autism or something. Sounds bother.
That's correct, and particularly mechanical noise. Mechanical noise is a great agitation generator, and so when some facilities use cheap through-the-wall air conditioning units that grind and shake and create all of this low-frequency noise, that's a huge generator of agitation. And yes, it is an economic decision to go ahead and put in a state-of-the-art split system, and most facilities don't do that. At Tribute, we made that decision early on that we would not do anything but the highest quality.
Because, think about it. You go to a hotel room and that darn thing kicks on every 20 minutes.
Wakes you up.
Or you hear the rattling. And like you said, you go outside the facility and there's 50 of these units. How can you have any peace sitting out there under a beautiful tree, reading a book or whatever the case may be, and you're hearing all of this? With
50 units grinding in your ear at 60 decibels, that's the frustration that led us to design our own facility.
Yeah. And, of course, the groundbreaking ceremony is on Monday. And
do you have people lined up ready to come to the facility yet? At what point can people start to inquire about living there?
We've had inquiries, but it's really a little early for enrollment.
Okay.
Because the decision to utilize our type facility is really done on a pretty short frequency basis. When you finally reach that point as a family member, knowing you can't maintain the care level that the residents need at home, you finally give up and you finally realize that it is just taking a toll on everyone to the point that you've got to get help. That's a fairly instantaneous decision. So it's going to be about 6 months before we get to the point where we can start staging into the facility. But we believe that this location and the opportunities that we offer will be very successful.
It's a very vibrant area up there. It's a building.
It's growing. Everyone's moving there. There's new homes going up there. And so to have this facility, kind of the epicenter of where people are moving to.
We think so. And we've done over 40 years of architecture. We've done 400 some odd shopping centers and multiple dozens of theaters and entertainment facilities. This truly is the most important project we've ever worked on.
You've got me. I'm all in.
How can they get in touch with you?
Hodges and Associates, 972-387-1000, and I'll be happy to talk directly with anybody who has a question.
Yeah, I've actually got a comment on Facebook. Someone said good stuff. They were listening to the show.
It's very interesting.
And made a comment to me, so I appreciate the feedback on that. It is, because we all know someone, or we are dealing with it ourselves of some type of...
soon will be.
Or soon will be. I'm 46 years old, and you brought up a great example. How young was that one?
Well, early onset, we're now seeing a lot of early onset in your 40s and 50s, which is a scary proposition, but it is the facts that we're living with. So it tends to push me more towards our environment, our nutritional issues, our fitness
What's
issues.
the signs on that, by the way?
Well,
I mean, without digging too deep on that.
If I can give you the example, my father called me one day and said, hey, an event had happened yesterday, and that event had actually happened 18 months prior. So when you begin to get phone calls like that, or confusion in a daily trip where someone gets lost on the way back, or a TIA, which is a transient attack that occurs in the brain, and basically a circuit breaker blows.
Okay. Well, look, while you're on that subject, back in 2005, I had a stroke. That's what brought me to Texas.
You're kidding.
Because I was in Vero Beach, Florida. Long story short, had to have a procedure done in my heart because it was letting deoxygenated blood flow through there and cause a clot. Just what he's saying. Speech, audio, speech, it all just went boom. Like if you turned off that light, okay, that's a stroke. When you turn it back on, that's when blood returns to the brain. Now, you may have certain lights come back on. You may have a few lights that don't come back on at all. Like they're just dead. That's what a stroke does. Now, with that said, I did experience some verbal communication like trip-ups. And sometimes, I'm telling you, and I'm admitting this on the radio, certain days I come on this show, I know when I'm not my best. I really know when it's really fuzzy. My thoughts are really fuzzy and cloudy, and it's hard to formulate words. And that happens once a week. And so I used to, think, okay, well, it's because I haven't had my coffee today. And I try to blame it on something, but that's exactly what it is. It affects you. And that was when I was 38. I'm 46 now.
So I mean, there are signs, like you said, that all of us might be experiencing.
Absolutely.
I know you had more of a situation like that, but, I walk into a room and I'm forgetting something. Why did I come in? Where are my keys? Misplacing things. And you had suggested the minute that you start to see those, it's time for a lifestyle change.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.